You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered, and this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun. Hey everybody, Doug Collins. Welcome back to a new week on the Doug Collins podcast. Got some special updates I want to share with you today. We're going to have a lot going on over the weekend. We'll touch on those right after the break. Coming back with issues on the speakership, what we got going on in Washington this week, and also the heinous attack by the terrorist from Hamas on Israel this weekend. So right back on the Doug Collins podcast right after the break. Hey, folks, when you look out and you see the country and just the disarray it is, you see the Biden administration, you see the wholesale prices have just went through the roof again. Inflation is tearing us up. If you have your finances all impinged in just a few areas, if you're just in stocks and bonds and you're not diversified, I got some news for you. You need a navigator. You need somebody to help you get to where you need to go with those finances. And I can't think of anybody better to do that than my friends at Legacy Precious Metals. You need precious metals in that portfolio. You need gold and silver. And Legacy Precious Metals, the folks there, they're the navigators. They know how to deal with tough times. They know and how to look ahead and take your personal situation and make it something that can be workable for you in the long term, because that's, at the end of the day, that's the one you're most concerned about. You need to make sure that your personal finances and your retirement are secure. You need folks like Legacy Precious Metals helping you in that. They will take the time to learn you. They'll learn your finances. They'll learn where your investment goals are, and they'll help you get there. And metals and gold right now, in this kind of crazy inflation, in this kind of crazy economy with the Biden's economy, is just, you need that help. And Legacy Precious Metals is the one to do that. So give Legacy Precious Metals a call, 866-528-1903, 866-528-1903, or you can always visit them online at legacypminvestments.com, and you can download their free investor's guide. Legacy Precious Metals, they're the ones you need. They're the navigators to help you through these turbulent times. Hey everybody, it's MyPillow's 20th year anniversary, and over 80 million MyPillows have been sold. Mike Lindell and MyPillow wants to thank each of you and every one of you for giving you the lowest price in history on their MyPillows. You will receive a queen-size MyPillow for $19.98. Regular price is $69.98, and just $10 more for a king size. You will receive deep discounts on all MyPillow products, such as bed sheets, mattress toppers, pet beds, mattresses, my slippers, and so much more. This is a time to try out something other than the amazing products that you've had your eye on. Go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square, and use the promo Collins, Collins, to receive this amazing offer on the queen size MyPillow for $19.98, or call 800-986-3994. This offer comes with a 10-year warranty and 60-day money-back guarantee. It's time to start getting the quality sleep you deserve. You know how I know that? Because I sleep on a MyPillow every night. Go to mypillow.com and use promo code Collins, Collins, or call 800-986-3994 today. All right, folks, let's jump right into this. A big weekend of events in the world. Let's take off the first, that being the attack by Hamas, the terrorist from Hamas on Israel. Again, let's not sugarcoat this. Let's not paint it any other picture than what it was. These are simply terrorists, butchers, or as put by the Israeli Defense Force leader, human animals. I mean, this is, again, what we have seen come out of this is not helpful. It's not going to resolve the situation. In fact, if anything, it may resolve it another way now, because I think the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, will be going into Gaza as we are even taping this here on Monday morning, ready to go in and do a very difficult job, and that is cleaning up Gaza. And at the same time, you have Hezbollah to the north, who is sending down missiles as well, trying to distract. You have Biden, who has sent in closer to the Gerald Ford carrier group, has been sent in, I think, mainly to keep the other countries around Israel on notice, such as Syria and others, to say, hey, this is not the time to be even thinking about moving in now. it's just really terrifying. If you've looked at the videos coming out of this, I'm going to get to some points here in just a minute, but I think some of the things that is just very concerning. Again, this was a brutal, emotional attack. It looks like it had been planned, and this is a concerning part, and we'll get to this in here in a little bit, a concerning part that had been planned for a while, also with the help of Iran. And we'll talk about Iran as we go through here, because Iran cannot be separated from this. Any punishment of Hamas, Hezbollah, or any of the others, especially Hamas, who started this, has to end up at the doorstep of Tehran. And the Iranian mullahs and others who have started this, because they have been funding this these terror organizations for years. This is what they do. But this is, I mean, if you just looked at some of the video coming out of the weekend, this isn't war. This is not, and there's no way Hamas can claim that they're victims in this. And it's really interesting. And I've heard a lot of people, again, if you're in America and you're here legally, in my mind, you have the free speech to go and say whatever you want to say. And we had those who showed their ignorance, in my opinion, in the Times Square, and others that supporting this attack, this heinous attack on America in Times Square yesterday. It does open up the possibility, and I think this is something that I have been talking about all morning on TV and others, is that the issue is becoming, are we having a existential crisis from our border, which we've known to happen, in which we've had terrorists and others who have come in. 2 million gotaways, by the way. 2 million, we ain't got a clue to who they are or where they are, but they're in the United States that we have documented over the past couple of years. They could be from the Middle East. They could be part of Hamas. They could be sleeper cells from any of these countries. This is why the border is so important, folks. When you look at this, objectively, I don't care if you want to see a more open immigration process, fine. Then advocate for that. But don't advocate for simply open borders in which you do not know who's coming across the border. And we have caught known terrorists on this list. Now, that tells me that they were, I almost believe, were trying to get caught because something else was going on. I mean, why would they put themselves, these are folks who are known operatives, putting themselves in jeopardy of getting arrested in the United States, if not for they want to get into our prison system, they wanted to get into our incarceration system, or they were hiding the fact, their cover for others who were getting in the country in these getaway situations in which we look at. All of this matters. And you say, well, Doug, how does it matter? Well, the terrorists, and let's call them terrorists. This is not a state-on-state conflict. This is terrorists who went across, killed women, children, raped, pillaged, plundered, whatever you want to call it, simply out of evil, pure and simple. And this was promoted, and now it's coming out more through reports in the Wall Street Journal and others that this was a coordinated attack with Iran. The interesting part to me is that we don't lose sight of the fact of Iran's involvement here. Joe Biden's administration, who freed up $6 billion just recently to, frankly, help this. And some of you may say, well, it's not being spent yet. And again, for all the reporters out there saying, well, it's not been spent yet, it can't be the $6 billion, they know this money's coming. They've got this money already, and it's being set aside to offset monies that they have. Now they don't have to worry about that $6 billion. They can spend the other $6 billion on terror, and that's exactly what they're doing. The ignorance level sometimes of the American media is just stunning in this sense, especially when dealing with the basic fundamentals of this administration just giving in to states like Iran. I've been saying this on this show for a long time. We've talked about this with guests that we've had on. While the world focuses on Russia and Ukraine, and there's a rightful place to be looking at that, and a lot of members of Congress and others are focused on, will China take over Taiwan? And I agree with all of those are concerns, especially the China influence here. But also at the same point, they are ignoring or just sort of have left off the map. The mainstream media has no reporting. I mean, CBS, NBC, ABC, MSNBC, even Fox and others, they just don't report about Afghanistan anymore. Afghanistan has diverted back to a pre-9/11 culture. I mean, you have women not able to go out. They're being beaten. They are, the societies went backwards. We left them a lot of equipment that was supposed to be in for the Afghan National Forces, obviously a poor choice in where we put resources. And we're finding out now that possibly some of those have been resources that were left in Afghanistan are now making it to the Hamas terrorists in Israel. Probably some of these longer range missiles, these longer range markets that are going into Tel Aviv and Jerusalem are Iranian rockets. This is coming from Hezbollah into the north in southern Lebanon. So again, all of this matters when you start looking at Afghanistan, the weapons that came out of Afghanistan. You look at the Iran, who has constantly been fighting this war proxy through Hezbollah, Hamas, and others. It's all there. I truly believe that in the years to come, that there'll be three events that are really going to be looked at. One from the Trump administration, which has been basically underreported. Nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to deal with it. And that is the Abraham Accords, which were bringing peace to this region. Also the Saudi Arabia, which led to the Saudi Arabia and Israel deal that is on the table right now. And Iran would be more and more isolated. I think the Abraham Accords will go down in history as something that was far greater than any of the modern media wanted to associate it with, mainly because they didn't want to give any credit to Donald Trump. The other two are the open borders of Joe Biden and the Afghanistan withdrawal of Joe Biden. Both of those, I believe, will go down in history as hugely calculated mistakes. And my concern right now is that the open border of Joe Biden doesn't end up with us having similar attacks from inside the United States. While the FBI is worried about extremists and all the other things, school board members and everything else, are they actually focused on terrorism links here in this country coming through our southern border? Our intelligence communities. This issue in Israel, I think, is definitely as much of a indictment of the Israeli intelligence community, but also with us. I mean, if this is something that was coming out of Iran into the intelligence capabilities, into the details that were coming out now, in which they were seemingly reported to have weekly meetings about this, where was the American intelligence here? Where was the Israeli intelligence here? Which leaves me a lot of concern for the United States. Not knowing what's coming across our southern border. And are we putting the resources that need to be put into those resources to get where we need to go? Next step in Israel will be what happens as they go into Gaza. Now, as they go into Gaza, is one of the heaviest populated density cities in the world. Gaza City is, and that area is very densely populated, over 2 million plus in that area. And this is very much would be street fighting. This will be very much, door to door. This will be very much, booby traps. I mean, Hamas has been allowed to free reign in Gaza for years. This is where I'm hopeful that this attack will separate the Palestinians and others who are in Gaza, who truly either want peace or just want to be left alone, to separate themselves from Hamas, who have been using them as shields, putting bomb manufacturers in their hospitals and keeping themselves hid in sort of plain sight, but yet using them as shields. My hope would be that after Israel goes in and the IDF cleans house, and I think it will be ugly, and I think you're going to hear this is Monday, you're hearing this podcast. I think that if they do what they need to do, you will be hearing from countries as early as Thursday and Friday saying, well, they need to hold off. There needs to be a peaceful solution. They don't. No, at this point in time, Israel needs to do what it needs to do to clean out the rat's nest that is in Gaza. And it is simply a bunch of terrorists. And then, don't be surprised in my mind that if Israel doesn't turn around and also strike back at the head of the snake, which is Iran. The mullahs, the heads of Iran have been behind this in direct ways, has been reported this morning by Wall Street Journal, but indirectly for years as they have funded and sent weapons to these groups such as Hezbollah and Hamas. We'll see how this goes. Now, it's interesting enough. There's already been some chirping about, well, we can't forget Ukraine. We can't forget this. Well, folks, look, we've pretty much forgotten everything anyway in this, and this just shows you that for those who do not think this is a terrible state of affairs we're in, or this is not a volatile situation, if you think we can all just get along and appeasement is your option, you're seeing the roots of appeasement come back now to haunt us. And again, my greatest fear right now is not is anything except the open border situation we have, in which we have known people who have come across. We have no idea of military age men and women who have come across that border, and from the backgrounds in which they have come from. They've come from all over the world. This is not simply, do not buy the line from mainstream media that tells you that this was simply done through Central America. These are not Central America, all Central American, Mexican, Guatemalan, Honduras, El Salvador. These are not just people coming looking for a job. Okay, they're people from Venezuela, Cuba. They're all over the Middle East, all over Africa, all of them coming through our southern border. This needs to be heightened to a much higher state of awareness. Let me switch gears, though, as well. And I want to, like I said, this is not a long podcast today. I've got some other folks who will be coming on this week. Fred Fleitz from AFPI talking about our security. We'll, again, dive deeper into the situation with Israel. We're going to also have some other discussions this week as we go forward. But let me switch to Washington, D.C. right now. Washington, D.C., this has highlighted the paralysis of what occurred last week with the toppling of Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. Right now, the House has no Speaker. Even if you wanted to get together and Congress pass something to help Israel, you can't do it because you have no Speaker. Now, the question will be, will this Speaker's race get finished this week? I think it's still up in the air. Steve Scalise, Jim Jordan, both, it is down to 2, so there should be one to get the majority of the votes as early as Wednesday. The question will be, can they get those votes to the floor? Will there be, are you having some members who are holding out for change in how the number is elected? They want 217. They want it to be able to go to the floor without having to worry about 10 or 15 or 20 members saying, look, I voted for one of these guys, but I'm not voting for the other guy. These are all questions that are going to be asked. But before we get ahead of that, there's things out there that are missing, and we're seeing those very clearly right now without having a speaker. That the briefings are taking place at staff level, they're taking place in the Senate level, they're taking place in with the minority leader in the House Intel folks, but you don't have a speaker to call everybody together. They're working. I heard as late as last night, Hakeem Jeffries was working to get a briefing for all members this week. I mean, again, that's where the Speaker of the House needs to be. And right now we don't have one. Now, in addition to not being able to do anything with Israel, and I think this just shows, some of the short-sightedness of what happened last week, no matter, what you believe should have happened. And we've delved into this in depth here on the show. You're now seeing that this is not a game. It's not something that you can just go with. And by the way, going and passing appropriations bills over the next few weeks are fine, but they're not going to stave off a shutdown in November unless they're actually passed by both bodies and signed by the president. Let's go back to the basic schoolhouse rock stuff here. So passing your bills out of the House is just your first step. You've got to be willing to then take whatever the Senate comes up with, then compromise, find the solution, and then vote it out, send it to the president, have the president actually sign it. This is not, and don't buy any of this argument from anybody you hear in the House that I cut off Lloyd Austin's money. You voted to do that. It'll never make it in. I would be shocked, absolutely shocked beyond measure that, if the final appropriations bill somehow cut Lloyd Austin's salary to $1. It's just not going to do it. It's the same discussion we had about the IRS agents. As long as you have a Democrat Senate, a Democrat administration, there's some of those agents are going to get through, even if they agreed to cut some of those new agents that were hired. So don't buy this. They passed my amendment. I did what? No, you got an amendment passed. Great. But if it has no hope, many times the Democrats before the speaker stuff, while they were trying to still do appropriation bills, the amendments from the House were being voice voted by the Democrats. They didn't care because they knew that they would never make it in to the law. So don't let fundraising and rhetoric deter you when you watch what happened in D.C. Now, plenty of these folks are my friends. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to raise money. They're trying to get people out there, make their point, get the stuff. But don't buy it in the sense that it's fact. I heard so many people last week talk about, in the last few weeks, talk about, well, I've got this in my bill and it's going to be there. And no, until the bills are reconciled, until there's final adjustment on these bills, all of that is one vote in the House. Good. Glad you got it made. But now you got to continue the process to get to a bill that actually can get signed into law. As we go forward, it'll be interesting. If I will say this, it looks as if because of this Israeli conflict that could push the House to get a speaker fairly quickly than they otherwise would, but there's still deep divisions. I've spoken to many members over the past few weeks past few days that have not thought that they would get this done this week. I think the Israeli situation could cause it to get done by Friday, but don't count on it. And if they don't, then I think you could look to a discussion on either putting Patrick McHenry as a short-term speaker, voting him in, and then, as a caretaker, however you want to put it, so that they can have a speaker to get some of these appropriations bills and other stuff done. Remembering FISA reauthorization, the ag farm bill, and FAA reauthorization, all of these are still on the table that still have to be resolved that right now really nobody is talking about. But these are all deadline bills, and these huge parts of our economy. The agricultural policy, the farm bill is huge parts of the American economy. These are all issues that need to be looked at as we go forward, need to be looked at is to figure out how we're going to do that. So again, just as we look at it this morning, a quick overview of the Israeli Hamas war, which it is now, and where that will lead. All roads lead back to Iran there. It'll be interesting to see how the world community deals with Iran. Will the Biden administration now suspend? They always said that they could suspend that $6 billion. Well, let's see if they will. Again, Iran's involvement in this. The only people in the world right now is Anthony Blinken saying that Iran had nothing to do with it. Anthony Blinken has proved that, especially over the past few years, that his appeasement strategy is not working. No one, you have diplomats who don't even meet with him. You have heads of state who won't meet with our Secretary of State, but yet met with in China, but yet they met with the majority leader of the Senate. And this just shows you the weakened state of America in the eyes of many in the world, and Anthony Blinken being the top of that. So as we go forward, here's the things to look at for the next few days so that you can be prepared. One, look at how the offensive from the Israelis escalates into Gaza. Do not expect it to be quick. Do not expect it to be easy. Expect many casualties on both sides. If you're in a Palestinian living in Gaza and you've allowed Hamas to do and you've tolerated their rhetoric and their hatred toward Israel, and you've allowed them to store weapons, you've allowed them to do that, and now you're going in and getting your city basically destroyed because of what they did, then you need, that needs to be a discussion. Israel needs to figure out how this happened in a time in which there are heightened tensions, the 50 year of the Yom Kippur War. These are all issues that have to be asked. Look and see if you're going to get more questions about the American intelligence failure here as well. Or did we know and Israel ignored it? Those are questions going to be coming forward. And then the speaker's race this week will it'll either get done this week, or it could, again, draw out the problems in the Republican conference. There's still a lot of the Republicans who have already said, I won't vote for unless. If they stick to that, I won't vote for unless, then it will be very hard to get a speaker named by the end of the week. So these are all issues to look at this week. We'll have more on the Doug Collins podcast over this week and next as we look ahead to really a busy October. But right now, that's it for Monday. Go out and have a great day. This is Doug Collins, the Doug Collins podcast. We'll see you next time.